Hello there. Welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and I'm so happy you're here tonight. Earlier in the week, we broke open our brand new Gnomes for Winter scrapbooking kit, and we did some contour cutting and some layering of our standalone gnome thin cut to create this adorable winter themed layout. I'll link that layout in the description, but tonight we're going to continue on in this series with another 2-page layout using those standalone gnome thin cuts from our Winter Gnome collection. We're going to use some pictures of our granddaughter, Hattie Elaine's first birthday. And here, of course, is her sister, Avery Jean. And of course, the trend is to have a smash cake and cute little first birthday photos. And then, of course, the siblings need to come along for the ride and make that a family affair. So what I'd like to do is do some step-up photos. I want to step them up step by step, starting on the lower left and step them up all the way to the right so that your eye travels upward across the 2 pages. I also want to use those standalone gnomes, and I went in great depth on video number 1. So if you're just popping in here on layout number 2, I went into great depth on how I created those gnomes using our standalone thin cut. So I cut some background pieces. I used some Ballerina ink on the hands. I fussy cut some little pom-poms. I used some Mink ink mixed with some clear shimmer brush to rub onto the skates, but I also used some metallic marker to show that, did some paper piecing for the hats, and did that same Mink ink rubbing on the beards and the mustaches to create sort of a little off gray glittery beard, and then did some Ballerina inking on the noses. Again, I've linked in the description that first video where I do all of the gnomes step by step and show you how I created each of those from our standalone thin cuts. So using the free cut guide that I've also linked in the description, you can download it on the shop site under the purchase button, and it is a free download, and you can get all of the cutting instructions for the pieces that I'm using this evening. But I decided to use a couple cuts on a diagonal. So we have some mist cardstock, which is cut on a diagonal at 3 and 7 inches to create the diagonal, and then some of the Winter Gnome crisscross paper cut on the 2 and the 6 to also make the diagonal, and then a couple pieces of white daisy that I'm going to create some snow out of that are 2.5 by 12 and 4 by 12. So I'm going to begin by tearing the edges of the crisscross pattern paper. Tearing is such a huge trend right now, and it seems to lend itself really well to this wintry snow theme. And we'll do a little bit of inking treatments on the edges, but one of the reasons that I like to do the tearing of the pattern paper and just tack it down very lightly with some adhesive, I'm going to pop that layer up. I want to have a lot of dimension, and I'm going to pop that up, but I actually like to put those layers on top of each other before I tear the bottom. And I end up seeing here that you have great plenty because I'm tearing quite a bit off, but depending on how much you want to show underneath the layers, you can tear a little farther down, and I'm going to actually do some treatments on that as well. I'll pull those two apart eventually and pop a layer of foam tape in between, but I want to make a little snow cap on the top, and I'm going to make it a little bit wavy, and I'm going to start smaller on the right hand side and get a little bit larger as I work toward the left. I'm actually going to tear a little bit more off, and I want to make a little peak that's kind of peeking down on the left, because later on in the video we're going to make a gnome peeking out from that little snow peak, and it's going to be so fun. We're going to add some sparkly shimmer brush onto that, and I've also done the same on the right hand page. Now we're going to do some tearing of some strips at the top here. and the bottom. And if it bothers you to have that closure, a lot of times we like to mirror the pages, or we like to have the pages symmetrical so that when you look from left to right, they just flow. And those strips sort of stop it on the left and the right, but my focus for this was the step up photos. So I actually liked the closure at the top and the bottom of the left and the right pages. But if it bothers you that your eye stops, and doesn't go flush from left to right, you can leave those strips off, or you can just add half strips to have a decorative element at the top and the bottom. I'm choosing to use full strips, and I'm going to tear my mist strip here. And again, if you tear toward yourself, you're going to see a lot of that white core of that mist cardstock. If you tear away from yourself, you won't see as much of that white core. So what I'm going to do now, I've layered those two pieces together, and I'm going to ink those with a little bit of Mink ink and do a little bit of treatment on that. We'll probably be adding some Ballerina, but I wanted to pull those photos back away so that you could see that the Ballerina color is in my photos, but that's really the only tie-in to the Ballerina, aside from maybe the little bit of Ballerina that's added to the noses and to the hands of the gnomes. So if your photos lend themselves to a completely different background color, if there's no Ballerina, if there's more blues or browns or greens, you can adjust the texture that you're adding to the background. So I'm just taking the sponge and I'm sponging the white core edges of all of the torn bits that we've torn. Now, again, the full measurements are in the free guide, but just as a guide, the mist pieces on the top and the bottom were 1 by 12, and then I believe the crisscross pieces were 3/4 by 12 before those were cut. So I'm just sponging a little bit of that. Now I'm going to squeeze out a little bit of the clear shimmer brush, and I'm actually just going to paint the snow with the clear shimmer brush. It's just going to give it a nice glossy glittery look in the background. You may not be able to see it super clearly on the video, but it gives it a wonderful sparkle, just like snow that's shimmering in the sunlight. Now, if you watched my previous process video where I put together all of the gnomes completely and used a lot of the clear shimmer brush in my techniques, I did mention that there's so many things that would go wonderfully with this workshop. Our white gloss spray, our silver stickles. Now, many of my paper crafters invested in those because they were part of our last core catalog. They're not currently in our current catalog, but many of our Close to My Heart paper crafters and my Snips by Kelly paper crafters have those. So feel free to play and have fun with the white stickles, with the white gloss spray. That would look so fun and wonderful for the snow as well. So now we're going to add our paper strips, and some of the strips are going to be snipped because they aren't long enough to go across. Either there wasn't enough paper and I needed to use faux strips, or they just needed to be adjusted to one way or the other. So I'm actually using the long part of my T ruler. I love it because it's so long. You can also use the sides of your Versamat, but basically the winter strip is 2 3/8 from the bottom of the page on the left page, with approximately about 1/8 of an inch between strips. And once you get that first one in place, you can work upward. Now, depending on your photos, depending on your tearing, if your strips are a little bit off or not the exact measurements, don't stress. In fact, my photos are going to end up being different than my master layout, just because the tearing on this layout was a little different than the tearing on my master layout. So my photos end up being a little bit lower on this layout, but it's all about the stepping and stepping the photos up bit by bit so that they climb upward as you cross over the pages. I also love the concept of the photos popping up and layering over the top of each other and just creating that wonderful dimensional look and that step across the pages. Now on the right page, the first strip is, let me see here, it's 2 7/8 inch from the top of the page. Okay, and so once you get that first strip in place, they're all about 1/8 of an inch in between. So we're going to add the strips. I don't quite have enough, so I'm going to snip the strip here. It's going to be covered up underneath the photo. So depending on your photos, depending on your strips, you may or may not have to snip yours. I do this all the time if my strips aren't long enough to stretch them across, because I was stretching the 6 pattern paper pieces to create lots of interest in all of the pages throughout the workshop. There's actually 2 more layouts to come and 2 more videos in this series. I did a lot of snipping and using of partial pieces to be able to conserve paper. I'm going to not put the photos on the right page because we're going to do a little bit of inking and sponging with some Ballerina ink in just some key places where I know that there's going to be some little nooks and crannies that are showing from the photos that we're going to be embellishing. We're going to be adding some sticker pieces and some acrylic shapes and some other little pieces in there. So we're going to add the Ballerina ink in the background. Again, if your photos lent themselves to a different color of ink in this series, just sponge that color in the background. So the first photo on the right page, the 4x6 photo, is 3 3/4 inch from the bottom of the page and about 1.5 inches from the left edge. Once you anchor that 4x6 photo, and by the way, I matted all of the photos onto periwinkle cardstock, and of course those dimensions are in the cut guide, but the periwinkle cardstock is 1/8 of an inch larger than the photo. So on the left page we have a 4x6, a 4x4, and a 3x3. On the right page we have a 4x6, a 4x4, and a 3x3. So of course they are all just 1/8 of an inch larger. Now I have to actually move my top photo down. I got it too high so the strip doesn't fit. And then I also noticed something funny, and I'm actually glad that this happened because in my master layout, I actually, and when I keep saying master layout, I did the designing in the workshop guide that you are able to download. And so my master layout in that workshop guide has a slightly different photo on the right page of that 4x6. You're going to notice that Hattie Elaine's arms are the opposite. So in the master, if you downloaded the guide, her arms are actually the opposite of my photo tonight, and I forgot that I did this. I was having trouble reconciling the photos, but on my PictureMate 400, you have the option to flip photos vertically or flip photos horizontally, and they stay proportioned. They stay exactly the size that they are, but they actually flip. So this works out so much better by flipping the photo so that then I can tuck the 3x3 photo in without covering as much up of Hattie Elaine as it was covering when I was using the other orientation of the photo, or the other, what do you want to call it? The other flip. And so I love that. I love that feature on, and it actually isn't because of my PictureMate 400. It's actually because of the app that I use that is called, I'm going to have to look that up really quick. It's going to drive me crazy. Print to size. What is the matter with me? I was totally forget. So you can actually do that on the app, whether you have a PictureMate 400 or not. But I love to do that right on my phone and flip those around. Now we're going to have the layering fun. So we have the step photos. We have them stepping upward from left to right. We have some little nooks and crannies in the photos, and as well as the torn snow. So I'm going to toggle the Sapphire gnome in the little valley. And then, of course, the gnomes are playful and fun. And one of the gnomes took a tumble on the ice and he is upside down. And I want to toggle him so that his skates are sort of in that rubbed ballerina area where we've added the inking. And then we're just going to scatter the mittens. And if I didn't mention it before, the mittens are from the scrapbooking workshop kit, and they are the Gnomes for Winter scrapbooking stamp and thin cut. I don't know why I'm so kittywampus on camera here. Let me get a little bit straightened out. There we go. And so once I have those gnomes in place, I love having the little gnome underneath the layer, the periwinkle hat, just sneaking a little peek out and popping up his mustache and his nose. We're going to pop up a little peeking gnome over on the left page as well, but we're going to incorporate him into the title. So right now I'm just grabbing the stickers off of the sticker sheet, adding a little powder from my anti-static pouch and taking the sticky off the back so that I can add foam tape to it so that it doesn't stick in weird places and the stickers don't bow down, so that they're even across. I've added my journaling to the circle, and I'm going to tuck that into the little nook right there between Hattie Elaine's smash cake photos, and that's going to work perfectly to add a little bit of a round element to otherwise rectangles and squares, to sort of soften that up a little bit with a round shape. That's a great technique to do. Now I purposely created a little snow valley, and I want to tuck the snow day sticker in the little snow valley underneath. And I'm going to tuck it so that it doesn't cover up the words, and I'm just going to make it look like a little snow cap, and we're going to build the little peeking gnome on top of that and sort of stack that up on top. And I don't know if you watched the previous video for layout 1 for Gnomes for Winter, layout 1 and video 1 in this series, but I talked a little bit about how the gnomes bring out your inner child. And gnomes are all the craze, and I think it's so fun that these photos are birthday photos. They have nothing to do with gnomes. They actually don't even look like winter photos, except there's one snowflake on Hattie's cake. And she is our only grandchild that has a winter birthday. I think our children did not realize that there's any other season besides fall. Out of 8 grandchildren, I think we have, well, I guess a couple could be considered late summer, but really almost all 7 out of 8 of them are almost all in the fall if you count late summer. So I guess we start kind of in the middle summer and we go all the way through late fall, but it feels like it's all at once. Many, many birthdays in October, grandkid birthdays, and then all of our children's anniversaries are in the fall, and our anniversaries in the fall, and we harvest in the fall. So I love that we have a winter celebration with Hattie Elaine's birthday. So now I have toggled that cute little gnome on top of the title, added the little chevron sticker, cut the round snowflake sticker in half so that I can use half of it in the little nook there between the photos and the other half on the opposite page, and then stick another little sticker on top of the rounded snowflake that's sticking out there. I'm going to add some foam tape to this tag and put that over on the right. And I love the gnome. He's so playful and fun. And if you followed my Gnomes for Autumn series, now we have Gnomes for Autumn. Now we have a Gnomes for Winter. So we have a standalone thin cut for our autumn gnome and a standalone thin cut for our winter gnome, which gives us a hint. It's called Gnomes for All Seasons. So guess what? I bet anything there will be another gnome next season. And I can't wait to collect a gnome for all 4 seasons. It's going to be so fun. And how fun would it be to have a culmination at the end with all 4 standalone gnomes to have their own workshop or something like that. So cute. Something to think about. Food for thought. So now I'm adding some little circle stickers, a couple little word stickers, and I'm filling in all the little nooks and crannies with goodies. We have acrylic shapes that come with the Gnomes for Winter scrapbooking kit. We have, of course, the wonderful sticker sheet. And I really believe that all of these fun little details are really hard to see on a photo. Even on camera, on video, it's so fun. They sparkle from the Shimmer Brush. And again, you could play with our white gloss spray, with our silver stickles. You could even add some of our silver glitter gems, some of our clear sparkles and our bitty sparkles, and really jazz it up. But I love it even just the way it is. So now I'm adding a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm adding our acrylic snowflakes. You can even crack a few pieces off of our acrylic snowflakes so that you have bits that you can tuck under in different places. I do that all the time. Sometimes I just tuck the whole thing under, but if I need a few little bits in other places, I can carefully crack those and tuck the bits under. If they crack in a weird spot, they actually glue together very well by just laying them down on the page and then putting them up flush against the crack and then adding liquid glue to the bottom. No problem at all. And our acrylic shapes now are much thinner than they were when we first started making acrylic shapes. We make our acrylic shapes right in our home office. Close to My Heart has lasers that create those along with our kind of craft like die cuts. And it's so awesome that we make those right in the office because we have so many different shape options, and they've really perfected the laser, and they make really nice thin acrylic shapes. If you're scared of the bulk, these are great. So now I'm using the medium True Blue marker, just going around and doing a little bit of dot, 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 embellishing around, and I'm getting happy. Yay! I so hope you've loved this process and that you can see a little closer the wonderful detail and all the potential to go in so many different directions with this. It's very versatile, so depending on your photos, you can add different coordinating colors. I hope you'll stick around and watch the next video in the series, which is layout number 3. It's going to focus on our Gnomes for Winter scrapbooking stamp and thin cut set, some little snowman, trees, mittens, and sleds, and all kinds of fun. Thanks so much for watching. I sure hope you'll shoot me a comment, hit subscribe, like, follow, and share, and come back again soon. Happy scrapping, everyone. Bye-bye.